This week, I am exploring the subject of bullshit as a problem in our society, and as something that is really wearing people down. And I don't think I was that clear. I kind of think my earlier video this week made it sound like job applications are the things that are wearing people down. And yes, they can, but there are so many things that are bullshitty that are going on, and I've taken a lot of it kind of silently, and this week I am speaking out. And I just experienced one of them. So basically, out of concern for a friend that I haven't been able to reach, and I've been kind of concerned as to their well-being and their whereabouts, I spent 95 cents paying for a phone number of his mother. So anyway, it used to be you could go to a phone book and, get this stuff for free, but that doesn't exist anymore. So I spent 95 cents. I was like, okay, worth it for me. Then I get this notification that, because I clicked a box that agreed to the terms. Now, we all know that it is total bullshit to imagine that we're reading all the terms, and mostly we imagine the terms have to do with, kind of concerns about liability. Who knows? There are so many terms that we're agreeing to, and anyway, that's a whole subject that's been explored, because we know that it's in tiny print. You can't read it all. You'd spend your whole life reading these terms. So we click the box, just assuming that there's some good faith effort to make the terms reasonable. Well, in this case, the terms were total bullshit. I basically spent 95 cents, and I spent $30 joining Spokeo, because I guess I'm just want to get a lot of information about a lot of people a lot of the time, and that's what was in the terms of this agreement. Now, in this case, I was able to contact an actual person who, spoke English, and I wasn't on hold for 2 hours. I did have to call a couple times before I went through, but I was able to contact customer service on a Saturday, much appreciated. And I got my $30 back. So, case closed. But it doesn't always go this way. And companies are really taking advantage of consumers because they can. And it's just something that we all need to be aware of. And, part of the reason I am quite fired up is that, the tragic incident that is getting a lot of media attention is that, there's a lot of tragedies rolled into one, which is we have a CEO who is now dead, and we have a young man who, probably went psychotic. But, he channeled that energy into this politically motivated crime. You could call it political. Just the awareness that making billions of dollars of profit for shareholders while denying life-saving healthcare to, people who are actually paying to be insured, but, when they need it, the insurance companies are not on good faith. They're not coming through. And, this is part of the reason bullshit matters, especially in a job, because if what you're being trained to do is to just do anything that you're being asked without thinking about, okay, what is the impact? What's the impact of the work I'm doing? And, we should all be wondering about that, So bullshit matters because if human beings are trained to just kind of go along with it and not think about, okay, is what I'm doing right? Does it make sense? Is this consistent with a moral code that I hold? Or, thinking along these lines, if we're just sort of systematically ground down so that we're just weak and just kind of doing anything just to get by, make it through the end of the day, then you have a lot of people who effectively, functionally have no conscience. And that is a huge part of what enables the machine of capitalism to continue as you know, because if you have people of conscience, then they're fired up and they say, no, I won't do this, including, and I include myself in this, like as an exploited academic worker, you know, making, well, poverty level wages for a very long time. And in my youth, I would say, oh, you know, I add $1 million to my salary because I loved my work so much, which is true. But, you know, I couldn't afford anything. You know, I mean, you know, my mom helped me with my teeth in my car. And, you know, I basically recognized there was no way I could have children on a salary like that. And, you know, it was only later that I started to recognize, like, wow, that is so crazy that I was just willing to go along with, you know, something that made no sense, because these schools are for profit now. I mean, University of Illinois Chicago is a profit. You know, I can't say a lot about the way that it's, I don't actually know that much about how that works in the case of UIC, but universities are increasingly for profit. And that means, hey, if they can exploit all these poor people who've dedicated their lives to academia, you know, I mean, my office mate spent 11 years at University of Chicago getting her PhD. And then she's making like, you know, I mean, that was my best salary actually, was there. And I, you know, when in a good year, I could make, with all these added benefits, because I did all these extra things, you know, $40,000 a year. Okay, those are my thoughts. Bullshit matters. Bullshit matters, and the way we respond to it matters, or the way we ignore it, you know? It all matters, because it's part of what keeps everything going in a bullshitty direction. If we all just go along, like, as if it's normal, as if this is the way it has to be. Not so. Not so.